And Stan was so
Oh,
generous.
nice.
Oh, that's good to hear.
He was so generous. It was so cool because he just opened. It was like once you were inside, it was like a family structure. Stan had just created this environment where it's just like all these mad scientists, like, and artists were.
Yeah.
It was so cool. The environment was built for generosity.
Okay, that's great to hear.
Everybody.
Yeah.
It was just a big learning environment. I don't remember what time period. There was a time period where I didn't do any art for like 6 years.
Whoa.
So nothing has been like a straight line, right? So it was like when you say like what did you want to be? I was like, I didn't know what I wanted to be. I just didn't. I was like, there's a lot of needs that I was trying to meet, and had to stumble through it. The art thing, re-engaging into the art, came after failing at college.
Oh.
I went to Maryland University, and then the only thing I did there was, party and not go to class, and then have the experience of the business and marketing. I was like, dude, I don't want to be in a cubicle. I don't want to do that.
Right.
I was like, and do these numbers. So my dad was like, oh, we have to choose something. Pick a trade or something, or either the police, fire, like whatever. Do something, right? Pick it. And I was like, well, what about doing art? And it's like, yeah. He's like, there's an art school up in Philly. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'll try that since I've been doing that. I like doing that, right? But yeah, I that was the path I went.
But what year was that?
The art.
Then that you attended the Art Institute of Philadelphia?
I was 18. I was definitely after high school, definitely a year or so after the college experience. And then, because I remember I'm engaging the time frame because I got an internship eventually over to California. Yeah. I know that I couldn't drink, right? It was like, it was in that block of time. Yeah. So I was like I was 18. I was a young guy. So,
you mentioned the internship. That would be at Stan Winston Studios in Los Angeles. So how did you find out about it? It was an internship. I believe it was unpaid at first, and then it turned paid, if I'm correct. But tell us about how you found out about it, what the application process was like.
How I found out about it, my pops lived we were in Center City, right? Philadelphia set up, we have Center City, and then you have the surrounding boroughs around that. The Center City is where all the office buildings and the apartments. My dad had an apartment in that area, and that was in walking distance to the school, which was in Center City.
Okay.
Lights were off at 11:30, right? I didn't want to go to bed at 11:30, right? And so I would always go down into the fitness area in the apartment complex and watch TV, right? So on one of the times I was down there, I saw an ad and Stan's shop. It was like a documentary or something like that.
Okay.
Or something where they said, oh, this is how Jurassic Park was,
yeah.
Or, and then it was like, I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like I didn't know you could do that type of art. And I was like, and I was still stumbling through to try to figure out what I wanted to do. Right. I was in the art school. I still didn't know where I was going. Right. I was selling T-shirts. I just asked the dean. I told him about that. And I was like, and he said, yeah, it's a possibility I can ask. Like, I was asking, was that a job possibility?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And he said, and then he came back a week or two later and said, yeah, they actually have an internship program.
Wow.
And I was like, really? I was like, what do I have to do to get considered? You have to create a body of work, and then you had to submit it. I didn't have any work. I was like, I could barely render. I was in a sculpture class, and so I was like, I saw that they were doing some sort of like, what was it? Like it wasn't Planet of the Apes. It was some ape show with it was an ape movie with Anthony Hopkins. They were real apes, but I was like, oh, well, I guess he likes apes, right? So in one of my classes, I did a casting of my own head, right? And I just started sculpting on top of that. So I made something that would look kind of like it was going to be in that product, that show, right?
Yeah.
And then I just tried to render the best I could because I was doing like urban art, like graffiti. I was like, well, I know I can do something real, right? And so I was like, I just tried really hard to put something together in hopes that I would be considered.
So you sent like photographs and stuff like that, or is this before the internet, or was it around the time of the internet?
It was all because I had to do slides.
Oh, wow. Slides.
Like, film and it's like that. They had a whole thing that they wanted, but I did it. And then I was over the moon when they said that I could come down.
Wow.
I was over the moon.
That's awesome.
Wow.
It was so cool. And
so it was unpaid, or was it a paid internship?
Yeah. It was just an internship to see if you like it, but it wasn't like that for me because I was like, I didn't have anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I know I didn't want to do manual labor.
Mm-hmm.
The experiences that I had when I was over in Philly highlighted that I needed to develop a skill set so I could leverage that. It was so much high competition for ordinary gigs or ordinary jobs or manual labor jobs because everyone would be able to do it. And then I was fighting. I would try to get any type of job. I remember the one significant one was I finally got a job that would pay $8 an hour over at UPS, but it was out in the factory.
Oof.
So, and the factory time didn't start till 10 p.m. So it was 10 to 2 o'clock, right? But I was like, I need to have a job. I need to get some money. But then I had school the next day, right? And the only way to get out there is you had to get on the bus. And on the bus, you were on the bus and you saw everyone else who was going out. We were all getting carted down to the location. I did it for like maybe a month or two. And then in that month or two, I remember this distinct thing is I saw this one time after the grind of it, started getting into it, having to work hard labor for 4 hours straight, right? Because you're lifting boxes. There's no break. You're like, they won't even let you work 8 hours because it's so much work, right?
Wow.
And the boxes are from like 20 to over 100 pounds. So you were deadlifting all the time for like 2 hours
What
straight.
a great workout.
Right? and it was inside of a factory, right? So what that means, right, is that the trucks are coming in.
Exhausts.
Right? So this is exhaust. So you're breathing and working out in this environment, right?
Horrible.
At the end of the night, every night, you blow your nose and it'd be black, right?
Terrible.
I remember this one thing when I looked over, I was on the bus and I saw this one man. He was an older man. He looked like he was in his 60s, right? And I was like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather not, right?
Sure.
I was like, if his experience is like my experience and I'm in a 20-year-old body, I was like, I can't imagine I was like, I don't want to do that, right?
Yeah. Probably only 40.
So
he just looks like he's in his 60s.
I think it was important because I was very clear. I was like, yes, I can do manual labor. No, I don't want to do it. I'd rather work on developing it. It helped me, give me fire to understand you have a choice. You have a choice to open up a book. You have a choice to do any of this. You know what I'm saying? You can do either one you want, right? And it's like, it's a matter of how you want to point yourself toward it.
Now, if you're enjoying this short excerpt of our conversation and would like to watch the entire full-length interview, then please head on over to our Substack, where you'll also find all of the other full-length interviews we've done in the past with other artists and creators. In addition, we have an entire section dedicated to written interviews, as well as tons of articles with tips and tricks, all to help you become a better visual storyteller.
So you attended Art Institute, got the internship at Stan Winston. Tell us a little bit about your experience landing in LA and what that was like. Because I believe that was the first time you'd lived away from home in the East Coast. I mean, Philly was, a couple hours, I guess, from DC. But this is a 5-hour plane ride all the way across the coast to a totally different way of life. So what was that like getting adjusted to LA? And did you know anyone when you got there?
I knew one person. It was like I had family by way of an extended family that was able to. They were able to provide me a place to land.
Okay,
right. And so, but I had to do everything else myself.
So, like, you could stay with them while
I could stay with them. She helped me out. We have a beautiful friendship still to this day.
Good.
It was like one of the cool ones. Is it's like
that's
still
great.
a 20-year friendship. I had a place to land. She helped me navigate for a bit, but she had her own space and stuff to navigate. So I had to kind of do it myself. And then eventually I was able to get a house with a bunch of other guys that were from the school system, right? And then so we were all kind of we rented the house. It was rent was I don't know, $300-$400 a month each
of you,
for us. Yeah. So we all ran there. That was an amazing experience.
In a good way or bad way?
It was just a lot of stuff. It was like, it was just, yeah, because we're like, it was a lot.
Okay. Okay.
Those are still my dear friends to this day. We were all in the same spot. We were all at the same age, and we're in this place, that's not home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we have to figure it out.
Right.
We all were able to land in an internship.
That's
position,
pretty cool.
And it was up to us to be able to keep it. Right. And the way you kept it was to show value, you know what I'm saying? Which is, don't goof around, do your stuff, be of service. Yeah, just remain in truth, and it'll be fine. And so we were. And then we were able to all stay. And then the companies extended an offer to hire. And I was over the moon at that, because at the time they were like, yeah, we'll give you like $400 a week. Right. And I was like, $400 a week.
I scored.
Wow. Right. I was like, you know how many CDs I can buy?
Like, I could pay my rent in 1 week.
Oh my God, it's amazing. I was just like, I felt like I was just like an actual grown adult.
So
because I was like,
when you were there, were they training you based on your aptitude or based on your portfolio that you had originally sent? Like, was it something where, oh, he can draw really well, or he can sculpt well, or hey, what would you like to do, and then we'll train you? Like, how did that go down?
Okay. The way I'm going to answer that roundabout is like, when you said, hey, will they train you? I was like, I don't think anyone really does anything for you. They open up the opportunity, and then it's up to you to figure out what you want to do with that. There was training to be in the mold department, but I didn't want to be a mold technician, right? I was like, I wanted to be a concept artist. I want to do all the art stuff. But the only way to be able to do that is that you have to work for that. You have to create, that path for yourself. Otherwise, no one else would create you. They've already opened up the space. You're like, you're in Stan Winston Studio. What are you gonna do with that?
Right.
It was like, just what do you want? It was like, and then if you want to be a sculptor, develop your skill set as a sculptor, and then show what you can do, and then you're already inside the walls.
Sure.
So that was the general environment that was like.
They put you on a project though, you're still green, so it's just like, well, as a sculptor, you're not going to be able to really sculpt a dinosaur quite yet. But hey, can you help us out with this?
Yes, a lot of people. There was multiple opportunities for that. It's just you had to kind of find out where you wanted to go with that. And it was like, and Stan was so generous.
Nice.
Oh, that's good to hear.
He was so generous. It was so cool because he just opened. It was like once you were inside, it was like a family structure, right? He had this one thing where he would do is like he would open up everyone who wanted the opportunity to concept on one of the films that was coming through.
Oh, that's nice.
Shop.
That's cool.
It happened like once every year, or like maybe once or twice a year. But it was a time we all looked toward. We're like, I can't, like the show was like, oh, is it possible? And then he would open it up, and then you'd be able to go up into the concept art room, right? And you get to sit in the chair, and you get to
That's nice.
It's just like, it just allowed you to be able to dream and then produce.
So, Charles, who were some of the major illustrators at that time who were doing concept for Stan? Talk about them, and then also, were you able to spend time with them, learning from them how they went about their process?
The main ones was Crash McCurry, Joey Orozco. Those were like my main connections. I had connections with a lot of people there. Joey he did sculpting, and then the way his draftsmanship and how Crash was, and his draftsmanship was just like, it was like they opened up. It was like, hey, you can, this is possible with art. Like Joey had such a grasp of anatomy, and then he would move that anatomy over into creatures, right? And then he was all about, like understanding anatomy, understanding the function, understanding how it moved with the gaits of different creatures as they were walking, right? And so it was just the idea of just using the traditional knowledge and then going into another level with it. It just engaged my mind. I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's cool. And then you could see it, and then they were really adept at rendering. And Crash's stuff he would just make things look like photographs, but he'd make dinosaurs. It looked like it was like he was like doing studies on dinosaurs, like as if they were walking around.
Yeah. And that's amazing.
Being able to take the fundamentals, right, and then use them in that way to create something that does not exist, and so and that you could. And then it was like, then inside that, it was just the whole ecosystem. It was like, you had the guys in there who were, it looks like they had like a mechanic background, or they would build things like, with mills.
Right.
But then those guys would be like scientists, because they would be building these robots and then the animatronics, right? And you're like, that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
You're not, it's not like it was all like, Stan had just created this environment where it's just like all these mad scientists, like, and artists were, it was so cool.
That's so cool. Jeez. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, we're Crash and the other, was it Joey? Crash and Joey. So were those two guys pretty open to your curiosity and feeding your curiosity and kind of helping and like explain how they go about their work? Or were they kind of like, hey, I'm busy, kid, come back later after I'm done and we'll talk?
The environment was built for generosity.
Oh, okay. That's great to hear.
Everybody. Yeah. Everybody was like that, especially in that time period. It was just a big learning environment.
Mm-hmm.
That must have been really valuable too, is like when you're trying to concept something, it's not like, oh, I'm just drawing pretty pictures. I'm actually having to think in terms of like material science and how these applications are going to overlap with something else. So that just sounds like a really holistic way of learning.
It's so cool. Yeah. It was so cool. And also because since I was coming from the East Coast, right? And the art realm in the East Coast is more like product design, or it's not movies, right? Mm-hmm. Movies are over here or in LA or in the California. That's where that is. So that's the type of artists that are around here are very different than the ones that are over in the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So eventually, from what I remember from hearing you talk in a previous interview, they had a round of layoffs, and unfortunately you didn't make the cut because you were one of the newer guys, and that forced you to go find something else. So tell us about that experience, and what did you choose to try to pursue after leaving Stan Winston?
That was scary. That was a scary time because I knew I couldn't go. I'm not going back. Mm-hmm. I'm not going back east. There's nothing for me back east. I already know what that's like. So what's here, right? So then I was like, well, I can't, like, I can kind of do some art. I can do, but I was like, I had to it's like, I have to figure out what I'm doing. Sure. There's no one's leading me anywhere. I was like, I'm just like, it's like, hey, what do you want your life to be like? And what can you do? The basics. I could trade my time for money, right? Yep. So go get a job, right? Pottery barn, selling at the mall, selling coats. Eventually I went and I did those temp jobs, those temp agencies, whatever it took to figure out, to keep the butt. I was like, dude, I have to keep going.
You're buying time. Hmm? You're buying time until you figured out what your next artistic step was going to be. And
then they had the, so I know I needed to get better. I needed to get more, I need more schools. Mm-hmm. So I would take the money that I'd be making. And then they had these schools where you can pay for 3 months period of time.
Oh yeah.
$300-$400. And then a teacher, like there was one place, it was called the Associates. No, was it?
They're like atelier schools where you could study with like Ron Lehman or some of these.
Yeah, they would just cycle in all these different working artists. And then they would be holding these classes, and you can learn that and the figure drawing. I took so many figure drawing classes. It was stressful because I was like, I wanted a higher end job, but I was like, I needed to develop my skill set so I could do that.